Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Heather Pollack, one of the leaders of Active Democracy Defenders. With co-chairs Abby Lewandowski and Stacy Novelli, we'd like to welcome you. Thank you for being here tonight. We are working to have a school board forum to round out the candidates for Summit County. As you may know, League of Women Voters is doing active schools, and so we thought we'd try to balance the scales a bit and get some of the other districts that are in our county. At ATB, what we call ourselves, we think it's important to remember that these smaller elections, the school board elections, matter, especially these days. Today's school board members become tomorrow's city council members, become governors and mayors and Congress folks and all that. So we wanted to shed a little light on the importance of these elections. And thank you for joining us as candidates in the beginning. Candidates districts. The districts tonight are Cuyahoga Falls, Stow, Munroe Falls. We did invite Woodbridge and did not have any takers. The empty name cards you're seeing are people that we didn't hear from. We wanted to be sure to be clear that we invited everyone, and that's why the names appear as they do. So on your programs, you will see all of the names of the candidates. Halfway through the program, we will switch to Stow and Munroe Falls, and you'll see those candidates listed there as well. Just want to give you some of what happened. This is not a debate. There will be no live Q&A. We will have Q&A from forms that the audience has filled out. They'll take them over to the screeners. We won't do any heavy screening, just making sure there are no F-bombs and that we can read them. And then I will ask those questions of these folks as well. We will start with questions that the candidates have prepared for. We gave them 4 questions in advance. We'll start with those chosen at random and then move to audience questions to keep it live. Good? For you, please refrain from applause. Once they start, I'm going to give you a chance to applaud because everybody likes to when they're in an auditorium. We'll get a chance to do that in the beginning, at the break, and at the end, but please not during. Please also be respectful and no shouting out and all that kind of stuff. Also, no arm wrestling. I feel like it's good to say no arm. Just because we think if you did. No filming other than 3 to go in the Beacon Journal. Thank you both for being here this evening. And obviously no flash photography. That out front, you will find a table that has candidate information, candidate literature for all of our candidates. There is no merchandise or asking for donations or QR codes or any kind of thing inside this auditorium, but all the literature you can take home. I think I saw some buttons. That's out on the front table. And if you keep going right, you'll hit the bags. Good? Feel like we got the housekeeping organized? All right, great. Okay, so what we're going to do with these bio slides is the first person who answers their question, the bio slide will be up behind them so you can get a little bit of information. We'll have that just during the first questions so that you can learn a little bit more while they speak. Good? So I'll go back here since we don't know who's speaking yet. All right, now we need a volunteer to start with one of these questions. I'm just going to fold it happen. These are the 4 prepared questions. And Jason, if you wouldn't mind popping up just where I can offer these to you, and you can randomly pick one. See my hands, I'm like in Vegas. Okay. All right, pick one of those, please. Great, thank you very much. Actually, while you're up here, would you pick number 2? And we don't have to ask you to come back up. Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, so what we'll do first is Courtney Zimmerman will go first, and then after that, Anthony will go first. The first question is from our priorities and vision thread. What do you see as the most pressing issues facing your district schools, and how would you work to address them as a school board member? What do you see as the most pressing issues? What do you see the most pressing issues facing your district schools, and how would you work to address them as a school board member? And that first one goes to Courtney. I'll go to the spot.
All right, thank you so much, Heather, and thank you for having us here tonight. Let me get right to it. The most pressing issue for our district and most districts, I think, are financial challenges. And almost all of our other challenges are kind of rooted in that need for resources. So a lot of these financial issues stem from our state legislature, which has declined to support public education by not adequately funding its own fair school funding plan. At the same time, the state is decreasing its share. They're also trying to pass laws that make it harder for us as local school boards to secure local funding. So this just made it really difficult for school boards all across the state. So the two approaches that I would take to this as a local school board member are first to make sure we are spending the resources we have wisely, to really take responsibility for understanding all the details of the budget in every single decision that we make as a group. And then secondly, I will continue to advocate at all levels from our local residents all the way up through our state and federal representatives to fight for investment in our children and our public schools. It's a hard fight, but we just cannot stop fighting for that investment.
Thank you, Courtney. Anthony, the same question. One?
Thank you. I think.
Sorry. No. Okay, I apologize.
Thank you for having us tonight. I think for me, our most pressing priorities are reflected in our recently adopted 4-year strategic plan, and those are cultivating a culture of kindness, facilitating our financial future, and steering to student achievement. And those are CFS, which is Cuyahoga Fall Schools, because we want those to be integral to who we are. And they're structured in that way because we need kids to have everything they need with that culture of kindness to and caring, to be well fed, or to have safe homes and all of those social emotional supports to be able to come to school. We need well funded and warm, safe, and dry schools for them to learn in. And then ultimately, all of that needs to cultivate an excellent education where that they can learn, succeed, and learn every single thing that they need to learn in one grade so they can move on to the next grade. And so those to me are our most important priorities. Ultimately, it ends with student achievement. The only thing we're bored of is education. So that's the number one priority, but there's so much that goes into making sure students are educated. And it's reflected, I believe, in our strategic plan.
Thank you. Gary, would you like a question? No, okay.
Well, going third, kind of went on coordination. One of our biggest challenges facing other schools across the country is financial stability. Our district has already done a lot to make every dollar count. We've closed repurposed buildings, spent budgets, right-sized staff, and found new ways to be efficient. But finances are the foundation of everything. Academic achievement and graduation are top priorities, but without the money to buy curriculum and teachers or even just keeping our lights on, we can't deliver the program to make the outcomes possible. Public schools are funded in two ways: local taxes, the state share, and then other revenue. In Cuyahoga Falls, about 60% of our revenue comes from local taxes. The state provides only 33%. Across Ohio, even higher homeowners and farmers now pay nearly 70% of school property taxes, up from 47% in 1991. Right now, Ohio's funding system still leans too heavily on local property taxes. More than 25 cases, the system is still negative. School funding is, and my commitment is to continue to learn about what's happening in legislation affecting school funding, and I'll keep advocating for fair, balanced funding that reduces the burden on local taxpayers and ensure that our students have the resources that they need to be successful.
Thank you. All right, let's move to question number 2. I will go ahead and put the bio slide back up. Fine. Anthony, this one will be yours first. All right, this is from our thread. School boards make decisions that affect all students and families. How would you reflect the needs of the whole community, not just one group? Say that again. School boards make decisions that affect all students and families. How would you ensure your decisions reflect of the whole community, not just one group.
I think as Courtney and Carrie said, and their answers to the last question, so much of what we're doing is coming up against funding. And we want to make decisions that are always the decisions that we want to make. But so often anymore, they're the decisions we have to make based on the financial realities that we have. And so we have a lot of competing priorities right now in public education that we have to make cuts. And sometimes, you know, that cut may not be what's best for education, but it's the cut we have to make because of what's happened down at the State House and with vouchers and other things that are affecting enrollment. So what I try to always do is reflect on what is going to benefit the most and impact the least. And as we've been going through discussions about, we voted recently to close an elementary school, which is very difficult as an elementary school that I personally attended. And now we're talking about redistricting our elementary boundaries. My guiding principle is always, what decision is going to benefit the most and impact the least? Because so often we can't impact no one. And that's heart-wrenching because those are the parents that you're going to hear from. And I welcome those conversations because I always appreciate parents that want to advocate for their children. That's the best part of being on the board of education is hearing from those parents that want to advocate for their children. But just focusing in on where you can do the least harm and you know the harm you have to have.
Thank you.
Right, so Carrie, there you go. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay. Well, one of the most important responsibilities of a school board member is to make decisions that reflect the needs of the entire community and not just one group. We're elected to represent everybody and not just a few people. So it's important. That's why it's important to live where we represent. We don't in Columbus, we don't just ask for cotton balls. We live here. I go to the library. I go to the grocery store and cotton balls. Paint center, cultural center. I make it a point to talk to people. I attend events, and I'm active in the community. So that gives me the opportunity to speak to a lot of people. And I'm not speaking to just people that have children in the district. I'm speaking to other community members. And so that gives me the opportunity to have conversations, some of which are difficult. A lot of the emails that we get aren't necessarily easy emails to read, but they're important information that we need to have. And hearing those perspectives helps me keep a balanced view and helps me make the decisions that we need to make to reflect the value.
Thank you. Before we go to the same question, there are some audience questions. I don't know. There's a little pile there. Oh, I see.
No, I've been reading it all day. This is a tough question. There's a lot, you know, there's a lot to consider. I will say, so we have an obligation, the school board, to make sure that all of our students are receiving the best possible education. So we actually need to know if there are certain categories of students that are struggling, and then we need to take steps to help them. So I think the key to doing this fairly is to base our decisions on data and facts that are specific to our district. We do all kinds of measures and testing, and we are in communication with our staff and our teachers to have an understanding. And as a board with our staff, gather this data, we understand the challenges, and then we work with the staff to find evidence-based solutions. So, and this is just what being on a school board is, doing this over and over, understanding what struggles are and trying to find solutions. So this applies to every group of students, special needs to gifted athletes, and a lot of, I don't want to get too hung up on isolating groups. Because students are in many different groups, and helping one group of students is not necessarily never comes at the expense. It doesn't need to come at the expense of other students. So I kind of like to get away from that mindset.
Thank you. Why don't we take a pause to sip water and All right, I'm gonna have Jason, left hand or right?
Right.
Okay. Yep. So this time we will start with Courtney. So I'm going to find this as a Carrie. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, this. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for being fair. All right. Are you ready here? What does a strong public school system mean to you personally? And how would you work to strengthen it now?
A strong public school system, to me, is much more just reading and writing and math. To me, it's about preparing students for life. I'm going to teach them to think critically and to work well with others, build respectful relationships, and interact with adults and other authority figures. These lessons shape not only good students, but good citizens and community members. A truly strong system recognizes that every child's path might look different. Some students will go on to college, some students will join the military, and others will go straight into careers. Our goal is to make sure that each one of them is supported and prepared to succeed. A strong public school system opens doors for students. Like through our 6th district educational compact, which provides hands-on real-world career experience even before graduation. It builds confidence through athletics and clubs and performing arts. It strengthens academics with opportunities such as the college credit plus program and tiered intervention support. And by investing in these experiences, we can help every student discover who they are and who they can become.
Thank you. Courtney, now it's
Okay, so I really can't overstate how important public education is, in my opinion, to our society and democracy. This is the platform that gives every one of us an equal footing to make the most that we can of our lives, to build a better life, no matter what our backgrounds are. So, this, I think, is the foundation of our democracy, to be honest. So first and foremost is education, so that means strong academics. So we want every student who walks through our doors to graduate meeting standards for literacy and math, but we also want to give them the opportunity to learn about different subjects and to develop their interests as people. I think a strong education builds critical thinking skills and lets kids experience different ideas. I do not think that it means shielding our students from uncomfortable ideas. And as a school board member, so I want to continue to improve our academic outcomes, meet each student's individual need in the classroom, with transparent decision making. And as a parent, I have to add that I think a lot about safety. I have 2 boys in the school district, and not just physical safety, but their mental health and the mental health of their peers. And I want to continue our programs with in social emotional learning and bullying and social media and safety.
thank you. I'm just going to check. We do try to do our practice this. Let's just see.
It's the red line. I'll come down and switch it if that's okay.
That'd be wonderful. Is that you, John?
Yes, that's me.
Please, put that one to, yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you, I apologize. Interference. Do you, have a question again?
What strong public school system means to me personally? I'm a product of the Cuyahoga City School District, and I believe that every opportunity I've had in my life is because of the excellent education I received from Cuyahoga Public Schools. So it's very personal to me. And then on my way here tonight, my sister called me for this conference night. My 2 nephews attend Cuyahoga schools as well. And she wanted to call me because my nephews were in the car with her, and we just got out of the conference with me. Wanted them to tell me, but they're told them, and they're absolutely right in our public school. And with vouchers, these private schools get to pick and choose. Public schools educate everyone, no matter your ability or disability or whatever. We take everyone for our doors. Anyone who lives in our boundaries, we educate you. That's what public schools are about. And that's an important lesson because in public schools, you're going to encounter all kinds of different folks. And I think that's what really strengthens public schools and strengthens our community because it broadens your perspective of the world around you. And we don't see that as much in private schools where they get to pick and choose the cream of the crop, the best athlete, and you have a very myopic view of what the world is.
Thank you. Yeah, you've done it.
Yes.
Okay. Just getting some audience questions and I forgot where we left off. All right. Let's go one more of these. Thank you, John. You could just use the yellow markers. Should I? Yeah, go ahead. I think that would be good. Okay. Thank you. All right. Education has become the target of hot issues. What skills do you have for constructive responses to controversy?
So my career is in environmental consulting for government agencies. So for the past 20 years, I've been doing public involvement and have been working with the public in various settings. Sometimes they're kind of mad, but I learned something in training, that stuck with me all the time, which is see first to understand and then to be understood. And so that's something that's really worked for me. So people feel like they need to be heard, and especially our parents and constituents in a school district. Just listen to them and give them a chance to express themselves. And usually that leads to a conversation. I always try to respond with honesty and factual information that can help them. I'm not trying to win an argument. The goal is to just have great understanding on both sides. And then at the end, I usually find that we're actually closer together on the issue than we might have originally thought. Had, conversation about school book bans with two different people within a couple days, and they had two different perspectives. But I, gave them the same answer of my standing on this, and it went fine. I mean, they were both very had nice conversations. So,
Thank you. All right, we've got a question from the audience.
I need to answer that one.
I'm so excited. I'm out of order. Please forgive me. Thank you. Sort it out. All right.
If you believe that public education is a space for everyone like I do, that doesn't matter what political beliefs someone brings to the table. We educate everyone no matter what they believe or what their parents believe. And no matter what their questions or their issues are, you need to take them seriously and address them no matter what. And I think when you look at House Bill 8, it was the parents' bill break. And I personally agree with all of it. I still don't personally agree with all of it. But when you're a school board member, you take a oath to uphold all the laws now, and the fact that they're an effort to be in. It's part of the oath we take. It doesn't have any caveats to whether you agree with it or not. But as we that both myself and Mrs. Shaper sit on, the reality is in our school district, there wasn't a lot of education because education is not indoctrination about what some folks out there want to tell you about. We aren't teaching any out. We're just teaching the state standards and hoping that kids learn that so that when they're in second grade, they learn what they need to know so they can then succeed in third grade and on. And we've done a lot of work to make sure that parents can assess our curriculum and do whatever they want. And that was long before House Bill 8 ever became a law. So hot topics, they come in a lot of external forces trying to make things hot topics that aren't necessarily that.
Thank you. Here that comes a question from the.
Education has been that topic, in many communities, from funding to vouchers to curriculum and new state laws. These issues be challenging and controversial, but as a board member, my job is to stay focused on what matters most, and that's what's doing what's best for students. When policies and laws change, we have responsibilities to keep our districts compliant while keeping students at the center. I approach these decisions with an open mind and calm, respectful attitude. I'm a good listener, and I make it a priority to be accessible and approachable. Talking to community members regularly, and not just when issues arise, because hearing different perspectives makes me a better one. That makes me a better listener and be able to make more balanced decisions. Above all, I value collaboration, honesty, and kindness. Because even when we disagree, those values do help us move forward together for the good of the students, our staff, and the board.
Thank you. All right. Who's ready for the hot questions? I got so excited. And for you. Nope. Okay. Are you ready? I will see this as well. An audience member asks, you are one voice, but the board makes the decisions, Can you your opinion is in the minority? You are one voice, but the board makes decisions. Can you speak to your ability to build consensus when your opinion? Good question.
We have a really great process in our school district for our agenda. We have something called your agenda. So at the end of our agenda, you can bring up a topic that you want to be put on a future agenda. And so there is something that you feel really passionate about that the board needs to have more discussion about. You can bring it up, and then it lets everyone know I'm passionate about this topic. It's something we either need presentation about or a discussion. And so it's one way of letting the other board members know this is something that I'm either been working on, I'm going to be working on, or feel very passionate about that we need to do some more work on. So that's kind of like lets everyone know this is something I feel really irked about or passionate about. So I think that's kind of been the way for our board, and it precedes my time on board to find a way to hear minority voices. And sometimes you just don't know what someone's thinking. Sometimes you don't know that somebody has really strong opinions about a topic until you give them the avenue to be able to voice it. And a lot of times they're right, but you just have to give them that space to think about it. And all the boards I've been on, we've done a pretty good job of hearing each other out, even if we disagree. And so we don't have huge issues with that.
Thank you.
All right, Terry, would you like a question? I would also, so we still on the board together. So I would say I've been fortunate over the past 4 years in my observation of a well-functioning board. I've been already on the last 4 years. If you have, as Mr. Gomez has said, we have a topic that we're going to speak on, and that is the opportunity for us to have that discussion. I know that I'm going to have something that's going to be a little controversial to speak on. That's the time that we're going to have a discussion. And then it's the time to have discussion. It's generally a respectful conversation. There's not calling us. And I think that if you have 5 well-meaning people that have the same goals, that we're in it together to do what's best for the school, for the students, that what I'm personally looking for isn't going to happen. I'm going to be okay with that because that's not what the consensus, excuse me, is, and it's something that I feel strongly about. That maybe approach it again when something new is happening. It's okay. You're not going to always get your way. You have just one voice out of 5, and I'm not got my way. Would you like to repeat your question?
Good. So, I'm not currently on the board, but I have been attending meetings since March of this year, regularly. And so I have observed what community you're talking about. This group, they're very respectful of each other. They don't always agree, but, they all know that their motives are pure. They are trying to do what's right for the students. And so, I would be fortunate to be able to serve on this current board. I know that's not the case everywhere, but that really helps a lot. And honestly, disagreement is important. If we all just, get up there and say, oh, yes, we all agree with that. That's not a discussion. That's not delving into the issue. I mean, and really, you have to try to anticipate not just what your opinions are, but what other constituents might think or what people have told you. So it's not even always about what your opinion is, it's about just trying to really explore this decision as thoroughly as you can and then coming to some kind of decision, always with the students in mind. I mean, that's really keep that North Star of why you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more. Whose turn is it? Karen's. There we go. All right. Now we repeat this as well. By the way, great handwriting. Thank you. This is love. What is your position on the separation of church and state as it applies to your school? Once more, what is your position on the separation of church and state as it applies to your school? Okay. So, Mike, thank you very much.
So it is my opinion that it should be separate. I personally am a churchgoer, and I would not expect my children to be getting Bible lessons in school while they're in public schools. I take them to church. They get their Bible lessons at church while they're there. I don't think that, excuse me, and that's the place for it. There are many, if someone really wants their child to have religion lessons, there's so many religions out there. It's very important to you. I feel like that you should take them to your personal church because there's so many various religions. How do you know that? What? I mean, they're teaching you what is important to you. I just don't think that is a great idea. And I have 30 seconds.
Great. So now we're back here.
Yes.
The right way. Okay. Would you like your question?
No, so I believe in the separation of church and state. I don't think our schools should be espousing any particular religion. Now, there are ways that we can honor individual rights. If they need to practice as a school board, do not promote any particular religion. So I feel very strongly about that. That extends to my feelings on school vouchers because I feel like that, is providing taxpayer funding to certain religious groups and institutions, and I don't that. So, I think that's a tenet of our democracy is that you make those choices for yourself, for your own family, in the way that you need to, and not.
Thank you.
Do you want to? My faith is very important to me, but it's my faith. I don't know that it's everyone else. I studied to be Catholic priest for 5 years and 2010 to 2015. So religion is very important. But I don't know that my religion is everyone's religion. My nephews go to bar on Sundays after mass. And I think, like Mr. Schaefer said, that's the appropriate time for that. It's not part of the school day because public schools are for everyone. One thing that I do think the state did that was a very good thing was the religious expression based law where kids get the equivalent 3 days as excuse absences for religious observances, because we know schools don't usually have off for Jewish holidays, for Hindu holidays, and for Islamic times of prayer. And we're seeing people use those in our district. So I think that is a great call that the state has done. And respecting that in our public schools, we have a diversity of religion. People need to be able to observe their faith, but they're observing that faith outside of the school.
Thank you very much. One more round of applause for our candidates. Thank you very much. While you are applauding, I do want to take a moment to thank the Akron Summit County Public Library. They provided us space this evening. I feel like we're really lucky in our library. I get to take the time to come back and check out all of the including this new one. One last time, go down. And this is voter information as coming up for this election. October 20th, the last day to vote by mail, and election day. Or there are a couple of QR codes there, scanning those with details on where and how to vote, details you'll need. Great. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. John, if you'll turn my mic just for a second, we can just change out for the next Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Downtown National Public Library. I'm Heather Conley, and I'm one of the leaders that Democracy. We believe it's important to pay attention to the school board races, and in that effort, we have decided to help round out the forums being with the leaders of voters, but just on and still falls. You will see candidates. Here's 6 candidates for the school board race. All were invited or have comments on that. I just want to go through housekeeping with everyone so that we can know what we're on about. But before I do that, I just want to say our philosophy that these school board races are giving of something. Legislative. They start right here in the smallest points. Yeah. I think this is not a very big race, but I think it's very important, and I think it's very important. Often mayors, governors, senators, folks. So want to make sure that we're getting a chance to get to know these folks. So thank you for joining us tonight. Here are the housekeeping rules. I want to make sure that you understand this is not a debate. Candidates are given 4 questions for which to prepare answers. We will give them each 90 seconds to respond to those questions, not a debate fashion. We will take questions from the audience, well, and those will be in forms. You're welcome to get one from you live. For the audience, please remain quiet, respectful. And for applause at the beginning, get it out of the system. We'll have a applause at the end. And please no filming or photography. We are streaming live. Oh, thank you, friends, and as well for covering. If you are interested in the rest of the right, also you'll find a table out literature candidates. We cannot do any taking of donations. No merchandise, our leaflets and like that. Barcodes. Thank you. All right, so I will start with one of the prepared questions, and I'm going to need a volunteer. Thank you. Would you mind just picking one of these for me? One of those. You can set one for the next. Thank you. Okay, great. All right, we have our questions that will start for each. So for that will start. That is Jason Whitaker. All right. What do you see pressing issues facing your district schools, and how would you work to address them? I'll repeat the question. What do you see as the most pressing issues facing your district schools? How would you work to address them? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for having me. Well, in Stow overall, we are fortunate to have an incredible team of teachers and staff. Because of their dedication, our biggest internal challenges today are not about but about inability to stay focused on our needs here. We are facing aging buildings, long overdue maintenance, all the time stretching of dollars. Student population in Stow and Norfolk increasing with more families in need. All inflation and state health policies are increasing financial pressure on both residents, especially seniors. Divisive partnership continues to rise. It permeates all levels of our decision making, but our communities always come together to meet tough challenges, and I believe we can do it again. When I served on the board from 2018 to 21, we turned a financial crisis into stability. We closed the $1.4 million funding gap right away, cut another $2.7 million the next year, and by 2020, we'd extended existing funding through 2023 by stripping $22 million off future budgets, all without cutting future services or cutting future jobs. Since then, school district's annual revenue has increased by over $18 million a year. Unfortunately, that money has been spent without any progress on our aging facilities, and our own district figures project to run out of cash reserved by 2028 or 29. I plan to rebuild trust by listening, by being transparent, and being accountable to our stakeholders. I believe in our community, their desire for our schools, student success.
Thank you, Jason. Tina, would you like?
No, it was the most pressing issue.
Yes.
I believe our most issue right now, funding. And that's because it's difficult to do a 5-year plan. Don't know what the state of Ohio or the federal government is doing. Currently, we receive about $7 million in funds, and the forecast for continuing to have those funds doesn't look good. We had 1.2 million of that frozen well into the beginning of the school year before we were able to hire some tutors and other needed staff. And I feel like even the state funding being in limbo, that we're going to have to start thinking outside of the box as far as how we're going to be funding schools in the future. The state has had 30 years to correct the formula for school funding, and they haven't done it, and they're not. I don't see that they're ever going to do it. So we have to start thinking more like the universities do, to try to get outside donors. We're going to have to start selling the naming rights of our field, our auditorium, and generate additional funds where universities do with private donations, and go a different route to leave no stone unturned. Look at our school funding.
Thank you, Tina. Pamela, do you need to repeat the question?
No, thank you.
Just like right up there. Thank you. There we go.
A school district is a very always number. However, the most immediate and important to me is that the district is facing complex challenges in funding. Unfortunately, more money than ever is being diverted to private schools via vouchers, and the state legislature chose to abandon the fair school funding plan, which was aimed at reducing the burden on local property owners, has been reducing on levies, and is right now considering other bills which would eliminate portions of our funding, even potentially for this fiscal year, which we are already several months into. While I think we all agree that public school funding in Ohio is over property taxes, the legislature is making these moves without any real consideration of their impact or an alternative way of funding public schools. This is obviously going to be very challenging, even though we have done a lot of work on budget and getting our spending out of deficit spending, especially in addition to decreasing contributions at the federal level as well. This requires board and district leadership to plan ahead, engage in thoughtful discussions regarding funding opportunities, priorities, balancing budgets. Those who've been following board meetings are likely to know that we've been engaging in such discussions over the course of the year already. It's my intention to continue to be as proactive around these decisions as possible so that we can explore options for bringing in more donations, reason our way through budget decisions, and keep the best interest of students and the districts at heart.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Pressing issues, correct? So I see the most pressing issues of our school district as rebuilding trust, maintaining fiscal responsibility, and ensuring our schools are equipped to meet the evolving needs of our students and staff. First and foremost, we must rebuild trust among the community, faculty, and staff. That starts with open communication, transparency in decision-making, and authentic engagement with all stakeholders. Families, educators, and community members deserve to feel informed and included in the process of shaping our school's future. Fiscal responsibility is also essential. Like all those before me, I'm also concerned with the decisions of our state government and vouchers and property taxes and all. But I'm going to talk about an ideal world where we do have them. Our budget should reflect our shared priorities, strong classrooms, effective teaching, and student success. I will advocate for transparency in how we allocate resources and ensure that every dollar supports what matters most: learning, safety, and educators. We must also address our district's facility.
Updating and maintaining safe, modern, and accessible buildings is critical to creating an environment where students can learn and teachers can thrive. This includes both renovating existing structures and planning responsibility for future growth. Finally, as the district begins work on its next strategic plan, I believe we have an opportunity to shape a student-centered vision that also values our educators and respects our taxpayers. By focusing on equity, emotional well-being, and academic excellence, and by grounding all decisions in transparency and collaboration, we can strengthen our schools and in turn our entire.
Thank you. Right. We will move back to. Yep. Question number 2 is time Tina will start. Education has become the target for hot topic issues. What skills do you have for constructive responses to controversy? Repeat, education has become the target for hot topic issues. What skills do you have for constructive response to controversy? Tina.
Well, first of all, I believe that education is a fundamental right, and it is the core of our democracy. As I worked for 20 years to lead women voters, part of my role with that group was to educate voters and make sure that people well informed decisions when and to encourage people to be good citizens and to participate in our process. So in doing that, I work with many groups, race, beliefs, worked with people that were angry about various issues going on in their community, work to help bridge that gap and let everyone's voice be heard so that they could have their opinions known. So in doing that, League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and that gave me the experience to be able to bring these groups together and to hear voices on both sides so that they could come to some sort of resolution.
Thank you. Pamela. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. As a professional psychologist of over 25 years, I've always had excellent communication skills. So I found that the most important skill is not communicating out to others, but rather truly listening and empathizing with others' perspectives. When dealing with controversy, those listening skills are essential, since most often we will find some point of agreement with those who disagree with us, such as wanting what is best for our students or wanting to be responsible with our finances. So often the most important skill is to shut up and listen. Additionally, I make an effort to always stay abreast of school board best practices through regular training and of potential challenges, such as following what is happening at the State House. I find that careful listening and doing my research allows me to be proactive rather than reactive, which can make all the difference in handling difficult issues. From there, it's also important to know when to let go and gracefully accept a loss and when to fight for what you think is right. Sadly, there are people right now claiming to be independent or nonpartisan at the same time as they demand that topics like race not be discussed at all in K-12 education. How would they talk about people enslaved during the early years of our country, the Chinese immigrants who built the railroads, and the internment of those with Japanese ancestry without mentioning issues of race? These folks making demands may not be able to see their own partisanship, but it is worth it to me to do the right thing and fight academic integrity and the right of all students to feel safe and welcome.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like?
No, thank you. I'm good. Education has indeed increasingly become a flashpoint for cultural and political debates, but I believe that our focus must remain on what truly matters: supporting students, empowering educators, and strengthening our community. As a graduate of Stow Munroe Falls City Schools and a mental health counselor, I learned the importance of listening with empathy, communicating calmly, and responding with facts rather than emotion. My work requires navigating sensitive and often polarizing issues, helping people find common ground and solutions that prioritize well-being and growth. I bring those same skills to the table as a point, listening to understand, not just to reply. I've also seen what happens when ideology overshadows the real needs of students and staff. Schools function best when decisions are made collaboratively and based on evidence, transparency, and respect. That means standing firm against censorship and efforts to politicize classrooms while ensuring all students have equitable access to resources, diverse learning materials, and a sense of belonging. My experience as a speech and debate coach has reinforced my belief in the power of civil discourse. I teach young people to engage thoughtfully with differing viewpoints and advocate for themselves respectfully, skills that are essential for both democracy and education. I intend to model the same principles on the board by promoting open communication, collaboration, and constructive dialogue. Ultimately, I believe leadership in times of controversy requires compassion, composure, and courage. I will always center my decisions on what is best for students, guided by facts, fairness, and steadfast commitment to the integrity of public education.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple of, oh gosh, please forgive me. Thank you, Jason. Let me get your card. Would you like to?
All right, thank you. As a lawyer with over 20 years of experience, I know how to communicate clearly and confidently with keeping an eye toward practical results. Throughout my career, I've led thousands of mediations, helping people with opposing views find real workable solutions in incredibly tense situations. I bring that same practical approach and mindset to work. I believe my ability to stay calm and collected during difficult times is with significant reason why I'm recommended and supported by our teachers' unions, by my former board colleagues, and district former administrators. I've already served a full term in this race. I've already served a full term on this board. I believe that experience matters. I know the challenge to be faced, and I already worked to address those challenges directly and constructively. Today, public education is in a competitive environment. Families have choices, and it's our job to make sure that they choose our schools. That means focusing on student success, creating welcoming environments, and building trust with the entire community. We won't do that by fueling division or echoing national talking points that don't reflect our local values. Community wants a board that listens, works together, and puts kids first. I'm running because I believe that we can move forward with focus, respect, shared purpose, and give every child the opportunity to thrive.
Thank you. Thank you all. I have a few questions from the audience, so we'll go there. I think let's hear to the start. Get your slide. There we go. Great. All right. What are your stances regarding Moms for Liberty, LifeWise, and during our schools? I'll repeat that. What are your stances regarding Moms for Liberty, LifeWise, during our public schools?
Thank you. I get to be the first one for this group. I believe that our public school day is for public school. I believe that if families, students would like some religious education, they can do that before or after school, or can choose a private school that focuses on that education. LifeWise and the disruption to the school day that it can cause by pulling children out in the middle of the day and bringing them back is a serious concern for me, as well as there are safety concerns with LifeWise, as anyone can buy LifeWise t-shirt. So I have great concerns about it. Moms for Liberty has been classified as a group. I'm not sure that I personally would go that far, but I strongly disagree with pretty much everything that I've seen coming out for Liberty group, at the least. They appear to be against anyone mentioning, for example, the existence of LGBTQ people. And I believe it's a right for all of our public school students, no matter who they are, what they believe, to feel welcome and represented in our schools.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
This one is, what are your stances regarding Moms for Liberty and LifeWise during our public schools?
Great question. I am a big fan of the Constitution. I believe that church and state should always remain separate, and that includes in our public schools. I don't think that religious education has any place in our public schools. If parents want to provide religious education for their children, they can either do it before or after school, on the weekends, on Sundays, like our Cuyahoga Health Board members talk about. But public school is for public education, and public education for the education of all students. Additionally, with Moms for Liberty, like Pamela had said, they are classified as a hate group. I don't believe in targeting students of differing abilities, LGBTQ status, race, diversity, anything like that. I believe all of our students should feel safe and welcomed and represented in our schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Haven't forgotten this time, Jake. Thank you. Would you like to question?
Well, I'll start with the lawyer's answer with regard to the church state issue. From our perspective, for those who practice law, we believe that the Constitution says that the government shall not choose one religion over another, it shall not favor one religion over another, and it certainly shall not favor non-religion over religion. It should be neutral. And I think that's kind of the way that this needs to go. If the state legislature who gets to make the law, then as a person who was the president of the school board during COVID, I can tell you that everything flows downhill. So when the state and federal government decide what they're going to do, our job as a school board is to follow the law. And so if the law allows for instructional time, whether it's LifeWise or anything else, we have to follow the law. With regard to Mom for Liberty, I'm not sure how much of a presence they have in Stow Falls. I know that they have some presence. They're not any group that I have anything to do with. I think what you find with some of these groups is what was alluded to during the prior questions, when you have groups that are very passionate about their view of the world and their view of their children and what's appropriate for their children, they're going to advocate for it. And so I don't know that they have any place in the government of a school. They don't have any place to govern a school. And similarly with LifeWise, I'm not sure that we're singling out that religious instruction over others, but from my viewpoint, school board has to follow.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. As far as school board members, we have sworn to protect the Constitution and we have sworn to uphold the laws of the state of Ohio. Although I do believe that separation of church and state is important, we are going to have to follow the law and make plans to follow the law. If anybody wants to sign up for religious instruction, I believe it's during the lunch hours, what we're discussing right now. Do I think that that should be completely separate? I do, but as of right now, we're going to have to do what we have. State has passed right now. As for Moms for Liberty, do have people that are prescribing Moms for Liberty that are running the school board, and their agenda is to separate and spread fear among our students. They do not want to treat people fairly. It's people that are different than them. And public education is for everyone. So we cannot let groups like that try to come in and be a part of the school board. Also, they want to ban books, which I'm definitely against that.
Thank you very much. I have one more from the audience here. I guess this means we will start with Kat. I'm going to get your slide up. All right. Let's see. How will you turn down the temperature of the BOE meetings that are increasingly hostile? I'll repeat that. How will you turn down the temperature of the Board of Education meetings that are increasingly hostile?
That's a great question. and definitely something that we need to work on collaboratively as a board. I think for me, one of the biggest strengths that I bring to the board would be my ability to listen first and listen to understand rather than respond. I think a lot of times in the climate, we listen to respond or react. And I think listening to understand others' point of view is going to be really key to turning down the heat on those board meetings. I also think that my skill as a speech and debate coach, I teach teenagers how to engage with each other civilly with differing ideas and to respond with respect. I think using that would also be something that would be very beneficial to turn down the heat on those board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason? There we go. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Turning down the temperature on the board in some ways requires that we change over some of the board. If the board is not congealing together, can't get along, that's why we have elections in one respect. In another respect, just like Dan draws on her professional experience, I would draw on mine. Anyone who has mediated family court mediations or probate mediations knows the level of intensity that those feelings that are in those situations, and resolving those in a productive and practical way requires intentional efforts to do that. It does require a lot of listening. It requires a lot of withholding judgment, which might be easy to do. One thing that I think happens in a lot of these instances is that when there's a disagreement, if you want to find a disagreement, you can always find a disagreement. If you want to find common ground, that takes hard work. And I think that in terms of what has happened with our board over the last couple of years, is that there's not a whole lot of community collaboration between the board members seeming to happen outside of the board meeting. It seems like that is just, there's no trust there. And unfortunately, that situation has degraded rapidly over the last years. So I think in one respect, bringing in a more moderate board, one that's less partisan and one that's less nationally issued card, would help turn that temperature down.
Thank you. Tina, would you like to repeat the question?
I do agree that we need to listen more. We go to great lengths to listen to the people that attend our meetings and give them several opportunities to comment during our meetings so that we can hear what the community is thinking. As far as the members of the board, if we follow the policies and procedures that we have in place on how to get your issues heard, how to set the agenda, and have respect for those that are all trying to work together for a common goal. We all want our students to do well. We all want our school system to thrive, but we need to have a mutual respect for the way to run and organize business. So if we could hopefully have some other discussions or retreat or something to help maybe educate some of the members that do not follow the current procedures, I think that could go a long way in helping to calm things down.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. As I got a chance to sit here and think about this while I also answered, I realized two of my proudest achievements on the board came very early on term when I was very much in my the Pride resolution, student representative to the board, both were while I was very much in my, and what worked was having discussion after discussion after discussion and making sure that everyone on the had a chance to talk it over, to think it over. I think it took over 6 months to kind of come to our final resolution on the student representative. It is important to put in that work. And it is highly unfortunate that over the past nearly 2 years, we have had a very active Moms for Liberty individual on, the board, which I would agree, Moms for Liberty does not belong on the board. Their agenda is to destroy public education. And we've done trainings and worked on procedures, and we have come to agreements as a board about how things are to be done. And when one member's entire goal is to cause chaos, it is really hard to prevent that. But we have done a lot of preventing it and having some of those discussions. But it's obviously not a perfect system. Again, when someone wants to create a circus, they can down.
Thank you. I have one more question from the audience. We just fixed it.
I think that's over. Yeah.
Jason, great. Thank you for keeping me organized. All right. With public education funding facing threats at both the state and federal levels, how will you face the attacks? How will you face the attacks for fair and public school funding? I'll repeat the question. With public education funding facing threats at both the state and federal levels, how will you face these attacks and advocate for fair and public school funding?
Well, the advocacy part is something obviously you have to do mostly informally. The board can talk at its meetings, it can make resolutions, it can send things up to its representatives. That's about all. Like I represent my prior answer, everything flows down to the school board. So you deal with the cards that you don't get to tell the dealer you want two cards. So in some respect, advocacy is there to face the practical reality of the issues that are at hand. One thing that has probably, since the time that I was on the board, is that the budget of our school district, the amount of money that we're spending, is outpacing inflation. And our teachers and our staff are not seeing their salaries stay with inflation. So that money is getting spent somewhere else. I intend to get into that a little bit, but there are things that we were doing as a school board since my time, including at one point paying 3 superintendents at the same time, that just can't happen. It's like if you look at, you want to make an analogy with Cleveland Guardians, have a very small margin for error. You can't make really big mistakes like that. You can't give a former superintendent $730,000 for 5 months of superintendent work while paying 2 other people the same salary level. And so the only thing that you can do as a public school board at this point locally is not just tighten your belts, but do your best to make sure that all of your decisions are done in a thought.
Thank you. Tina, would you like to repeat the question? With public education funding facing threats at both the state and federal levels, how do you face these attacks and advocate fair and public school funding?
We continue to advocate for fair funding for our schools all the time. We've sent resolutions. We've talked to our state legislators. We've talked to our congresspeople about funding our schools fairly. The most fair tax of all is, say, you have your property tax, your sales tax. Income tax is the most fair and even tax of all our taxes. And that's what the state collects and it's supposed to be given to schools. Their fair funding formula is based on 2022 numbers right now. When funding was found unconstitutional 30 years ago, they were paying 42% of what it cost the student to be educated, and now they pay 28%. So it's only gotten worse. So I'm looking at other funding revenues, obviously, to
look at our operations and try to optimize what we could do. Our buildings are very old, our utilities keep going up and up. Obviously, the cost of living does, but that's what we've been doing.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to have a question?
No, thank you. I think one of the big differences that we have seen on the board the past couple of years is advocating for our public schools. When I first joined the board, I was told that doing so was political and we should stay out of what's going on in the state house. I firmly believe that we should let our legislators know what the impact of their decisions is. And if you've been paying attention to the board, you have seen multiple resolutions that we have done. We have urged our administrators to give testimony in Columbus. We've had a board member give testimony in Columbus, and we have advocated for our students. We also have done begun, it's never done, the hard work of getting control over our budget in order to ensure that we are using taxpayer funds wisely. And we will have to obviously continue that work. It's going to be a lot of difficult decisions. And in the meantime, we will continue to communicate to our legislators, send testimony and resolutions to Columbus, and make sure that they understand the impact of the bills that they are currently considering. It's both and. We can both be responsible with our money and we can advocate for the state to take some of that burden off of local taxpayers.
Thank you. Catherine, would you like to repeat the question?
No, thank you. I think the best way to face the budget realities and advocate for spending in our school district is kind of a two-pronged approach. So first, finding new sources of revenue, whether that is, like Tina said, selling naming rights, selling off pieces of land that we are not using as a school district, things like that to increase our budget, as well as cutting unnecessary spending, like the several $millions that we spent on the field house. I also believe that we need to advocate at the State House by making calls, writing to legislators, and providing testimony to our legislators about how their cuts affect our students. I think we need to fight for our Fair School Funding Act, and I think we also need to advocate to join the lawsuit against school vouchers, which takes several $1 million a year away from our public schools.
Thank you. Got one more here, and I think it's your turn to go first, Tina. Yeah. All right. What about your school district? Do you want to be hit by the end of your term?
I would like to see our school district embrace technology. I would like us to use AI more for the teachers and for the students. I want to teach our kids to embrace technology and how to use it properly, because it's coming, whether you like it or not. And we can't just ignore it and stick our heads in the sand. So I would like to see us implement some working groups within our teachers so that we can train them how to use AI. I think it could be a very helpful tool in the classroom for them. And I hope that then they will pass that information on to the students and to make sure that when they use it, they fact check everything. Right now, anyway, when you use AI, it's not all. So we need to make sure that they know the pitfalls in using it, the technology that will go forward here. But I really think that that's going to be important so that we prepare for the future.
Thank you. Pamela, would you like to repeat the question?
No, thank you. I think for me, we have an amazing staff who are working with amazing students and families. And that student achievement has to stay at the center of our class. We have improved our leadership. We have improved our mentorship of staff to ensure that they are doing their best work with our children. And I would like to see those top-down changes and solidify during these next few years. I would also like to see us continue with our mental health supports for our students to the extent that they can handle their emotions successfully in order to learn. Most importantly, I think we need to work on what our plan is for our facilities to make sure that we are safe, warm, and dry, and find a plan for investing in our facilities which the community can really get time. And
Thank you. Catherine, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. This answer is going to be a little bit more long-term, but hopefully you will see significant steps within my career. So I envision the Stow Munroe Falls where our schools truly reflect the best of our, where every student, educator, and staff member feels safe, valued, and empowered to reach their full potential. In this future, our district actively practices anti-racism, embraces inclusion, and celebrates diversity as a strength rather than a challenge. In this future, our facilities will be designed for 21st century learning, featuring spaces that spark curiosity and classrooms will be equipped with the tools students need to collaborate, create, and think critically about the world around them. Every student, regardless of background, identity, or ability, will have equitable access to the resources and opportunities that prepare them for college, careers, and civic. For faculty and staff, this means a district that invests in their growth, respects their expertise, and provides the professional support necessary for them to excel in their roles. For the broader community, it signifies strong, vibrant public schools that reflect our shared values and serve as a hub for connection, opportunity, and practice. And that's the Stow Munroe. I'm committed to building, because when our schools thrive, our entire community thrives.
Thank you. Jason, would you like?
No. For me, the answer is pretty simple. Fix the broken things in our school district. That includes physical, that includes the bond of trust with the school district. Let me start with the physical. We have a field. It's not finished. We have a local company that's offered to put cement down in the finished area. We have boosters who have offered to turf that area so our kids can use it. Why that's happened, not happened, I don't know. So one, fix what we already have. If you go into our football stadium, our track has been deemed unsafe by every track official that's been there in the last 2 years. The bleachers are not ADA compliant. The bleachers themselves are bent and broken. We need to fix our stuff, because when you talk about that, student morale, everyone talks about one thing we all understand is the concept of food insecurity, but what about school insecurity, where you don't know if you're a kid, you don't know if the next day your artwork is going to get ripped on. You don't know if you're going to trip and fall and hurt yourself on a track. We need to be able to take that for granted, so the buses start every day, our track is safe, buildings are warm and safe and dry, and they need to be able to just not have to think about that. You don't need, I don't want my kids when they go to school to think, well, this side of the building in the morning, I'm going to be freezing, on this side, I'm going to be roasting. So we need to do better.
Thank you. All right, we have one final question from our audience, and I believe it is Pamela's turn to start first. We'll hear this. What would you do to support the district's teachers?
that's an extremely complex question. I was expecting more.
To do with hand gestures, to draw that.
Well, I think we have begun to do a better job of supporting our teachers. We were able to hire and incredibly qualified superintendent who believes in investing in our staff, investing in their training, in mentorship, and making sure that they have the support that they need in order to do their best work with our students. That is incredibly important. We were also this year able to negotiate a 3-year contract with our unions, which included a pay raise, which some were against. Some spoke out against giving the teachers a raise, staff in such uncertain financial times. And I felt very strongly that our staff had long passed earned the raises that are included in this contract. I think money isn't everything, right? But it is very important to take care of our staff and make sure that they are compensated as fairly as we can manage while keeping our budgets balanced. And I'm very proud of that 3-year contract.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. So, as most of my answers have suggested, I am always in support of our district teachers. As the only person up here with actual classroom experience, I think that centering my experience as a teacher is going to be vital for my position on the board. I understand what they face day to day in the classroom. I understand the pressures of curriculum and the social emotional well-being and behavior and all of the things that teachers face in the classroom and how best to support them. I think we need to do more listening to teachers, treat them as equal partners in the district, treat them like they are the experts in their classroom and in their subject area because they are. And we need to give them the ability to do their jobs. I think a lot of times teachers are not allowed to do their jobs because of all of the other stuff that they have to deal with outside of actually teaching. I also believe that we need to focus on more opportunities for professional development, district retreats, things like that, to give teachers that camaraderie, that pride in their position and in our school district.
Thank you. Jason, would you like to?
One thing I learned in talking with our teachers union during the endorsement process, the supported recommendation process, was I asked them, I rattled off a list of big decisions that the district has made in the last couple of years, asked them what kind of input they have, what kind of notice they have. And the answer was very little. And in some cases, when they were told things by administrators, the administrator would say, well, I wasn't really supposed to say that. And so making sure that we are officially consulting our teachers union on decisions that impact their daily lives. When we talk about the SRO program, how many teachers have been talked to about what they feel about that program, what they feel about funding going toward that program in the context of the greater budget, making sure that they have more of a seat at the table so that when we have our various superintendent committees, that they're not outnumbered by community members and board members 2 to 1. I don't think that they deserve to be in that position. And I think the thing that they need most from the school board is stability and stabilization. They need to trust that we are going to be consistent and calm and collected and do what we say we're going to do and fix the things around them so that they can do their jobs. Raises in the short term are real nice, but they want to make sure that they all have those jobs that 3-year contract, because it doesn't help them to give them a raise and then have to cut some of them 2 years later.
Thank you. Tina, would you like to?
So first of all, I think that it's important that we listen to our teachers. We are currently working on our strategic plan, and we are having focus groups with the teachers in the various grade levels to get their input on what they think our priorities should be in our plans going forward and what board should be focusing on so that we can get their input. We've also asked for their input on our facilities and the places that they think we need to focus and prioritize and the issues that they are facing in the buildings from day to day. But we can always do better with that. And we need to continue to reach out to them and get their input. I feel that by putting professional policies and procedures in place, all of the teachers are treated equally, fairly, and they know that if they do have a problem, that they treat it with respect from the board, from the superintendent's office, that one of my priorities to make sure it's fair and even with all process with our employees.
Thank you. Wonderful. I want to give everyone a applause. Thank you. And I want to thank the audience for these great questions. Ready? The time falls handwriting is just a smidge better, but I'm really excited. I'm going to stop with just finding out the slides right, but I do have one more for you. This is voter information about the upcoming election, which is November 4th. The last day to submit a vote by mail is October 28th, just about a week from now. Exactly a week from now. There's a QR codes here if you want to scan those for details on what ID you will need, where to vote, voting. If you'd all give yourselves a round of applause, and one more for the library for hosting this evening. We created a live streaming and we can do it covered. Thank you very much.
And we also give our organizers and Simon Polk and our moderator a round of applause for doing that.
Thank you. Adam Wiggindowski and Stacy Novelli are co-chairs of this event. They have worked tirelessly to pull it together, including all these tiny details. Discussing what we're going to do at Thumbs. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Stay home, everyone. Thank you for coming.